Hi, everybody. This is Zoph. You are watching Simply SCAdian, no title required. Lucas unfortunately had something come up. He may join us later, but it's unlikely. He's stuck at work. He's a teacher and he's stuck at work a little longer than he thought he would be today. So we miss him greatly. So you're stuck with just me. But to make up for that horrible fact, we have an amazing guest tonight. Adelisa Salernitana, there I said it sort of right, joined the SCA formally back in 2016, but has been participating on and off since the mid 1980s. In the early 2000s, they joined the Brawlers, a pickup dance band based in the barony of Bacale, which is Philadelphia, PA, as well as participating in Middle Eastern dance and music events such as Al Hafla as a drummer and dancer. When Buckland Cross was still a shire, they served as Mistress of Arts and Science and then as chronicler, a position they retained when the shire became a barony. Then they served as deputy seneschal and then seneschal. They stepped down in December after 4 years and will pick up the office of chatelaine. They have also served as Buckland Cross's second ever baronial bard, stepping down in September. Back during the pandemic, they decided to use their COVID bonus money to acquire their first Citole and have been learning ever since, adding glittern and lap psaltery to their musical skills and messing around a bit with a Persian hammer dulcimer and Egyptian oud. Their other interests are medieval Sicily, particularly food, with a paper on academia.edu that was picked up by medievalist.net, which is so cool, and spinning, knitting, plain weaving, a bit of embroidery, and garb making. They became apprenticed to their Laurel uh, Margretha. I'll let you say the rest of her name. In May 2021, they've received an AOA, a Manche, which is an East Kingdom Grants Level Award, and Silver Crescent, which is the East Kingdom Grant Level Service Award, and other East Kingdom and baronial honors. Thank you so much for being on the show, Adelisa.
Thank you. I really appreciate being here. And my laurel is Margreta La Fauvelle. So
Thank you. So how did you find the SCA?
initially, way back when in college, I had been involved in the Ren Fair in a small capacity up at Tuxedo, New York. And on campus one day, I noticed this gentleman walking across campus with a cloak on. And there had been some rattan fighting going on down in the courtyard there. So I ran down, introduced myself, and he was a member of Setmore Swamp. He still is, Mythical Aladdin, the Herald. And he took me to my first event, which was a quest way back when in the 80s. I'd been to another event I went to was one of the coronations of the East Kingdom. It was Gavin and Sedalia. I think it might have been their first reign, could have been. I don't remember, but I wasn't a formal member of the SCA then. Um, Graduated college, went on into working, um, decided I wanted to get into music more seriously and started taking classical guitar lessons. Thought it'd be nice if I learned how to play green sleeves. Eventually did. But then I found the Bacale Brawlers. I had reached out to Sabine de Cabriant, who was deputy of the Bacale Brawlers then, and Arden of Ickham, I think, was still in charge when I first joined. And initially I played a bit of guitar, but I gravitated more to drum as I started doing Middle Eastern dance, and a frame drum just suddenly appeared in my hands. And if I found if I could master the Middle Eastern rhythms, the medieval rhythms weren't that much more difficult. It was just paying attention to the other musicians and the dancers. So from there, kind of had a dropout for a while of the SCA. I started really getting back into it in 2020. 16 or so after my mother passed away. So 2016 was my mother passing away and my divorce becoming finalized.
Oh man.
Yeah, it was kind of a horrible year. So I started getting back into the local group as the Shire at that time and going to a few meetings. And then uh 2019 was when, we had become a barony then, and I decided, I wanted to become more involved, and I went in as deputy seneschal, and then COVID happened. So we're all sitting at home, and I wanted, I was by myself at that time, so I wanted to get back more into music, and I started picking up my guitar again, but I wasn't satisfied with it because I hadn't learned yet that about the great shift in music that happened after the 15th century, especially, and how modern music developed. And when you're trying to play early medieval music on a guitar, you're kind of making it more difficult for yourself. Um, so at that point in time, I had already encountered sitals, and this is a sital. Arden of Ickham had built his own. He actually became a laurel because of his research and his construction of the sital, and kind of being one of the few people in the US who actually was building instruments at the time, medieval instruments. So he had shoved at one of his musician petting zoo things a sital in my hand and said, "You should do this." And at the time, I was like, "No, no, no, I don't know. I don't know. I think I can learn it." And fast forward to 2020, and I'm like, well, maybe I should learn how to play one of these things. That'd be cool. So I contacted Arden, and he said, well, you could get one from Truvera Music Works, but here's this maker in London, and she is an amazing maker, but she also had a waiting period of at least 8 months for an instrument, and the price was thousands of dollars, and I couldn't afford that. So Margreta says, hey, get one from Truvera Music Works. And Master Drew Shoemaker sent me an instrument that did not even take up the whole of my COVID bonus check. So there was that. And Arden sent me a new bridge for it, and I started working with it. And I wasn't good. I had to learn about things such as the bridge move. So it's a tunable bridge. If you move the bridge, it slides along the board of the sital. It's not fixed in place like a guitar.
Oh,
So
wow.
this thing can, sometimes I have to adjust it up or down a bit if there's a buzz in the string. So that all sitals have a movable bridge. Um, I've seen ones built with fixed bridges, but that's really something that came with the lute, particularly in starting in the Renaissance with tied strings, and when metal strings started being a thing too. So learning how to tune the thing, um, there's actually no agreement ab- among the scholars what the tuning of the sital is, because
Really?
there's nothing from they died out by the end of the 14th century, beginning of the, pretty much after 1350 they started to go on the decline, but really 1400 kind of is when the lute became, the four-string medieval lute started getting more popular, and polyphony, the demands of polyphony, when polyphony started evolving into the music that we know today with
What do you mean
chords.
by polyphony? What does that mean?
Polyphony is when you have two lines of music, they're not doing the same thing at the same time, but they're not quite creating chords, but you do have intervals that, they work along. So fourths, fifths, um, unisons, they usually started and ended on the same note. Um, and polyphony started happening as early as, say, 1250, but it really started to flower later on as people moved away from the medieval modes and started constructing what we would think of as chords today. And chords are just three or more notes stacked.
Mhm.
So they didn't have that in early medieval music. We call that monophonic music, monophony, one single line of melody. So when you look at manuscripts from then, you're seeing, first of all, you're seeing no time signature. You're seeing just a C clef and the neumes, these square notes that give you an indication of where the note is, but the time signature, etc., you kind of have to figure that out. Sometimes from the words you can do that. Sometimes, it's obvious, like it's a dance piece, so it's probably going to be in like a 6/8 rhythm, which is very popular, or a 2/4 rhythm, or something steady. Um, the troubadours of the 12th century in France in the 1100s, a lot of the music that survives, they do not have time signatures on, and a lot of it seems because it was sung and there was some musical accompaniment. We don't quite know what it was. We know they played citoles, we know they played harps, but a lot of it is very arty, in which they will hold on to notes and hold on and and try and do it more in a speaking manner almost in some of the things that they do, because they were first and foremost poets.
Mhm.
So playing one of the troubadour tunes can be kind of challenging, but others are just like so so sprightly that you're like, okay, this rhythm fits, and that's what I'm going to do. And others are a little bit more challenging than that. So, in order to really learn, I started taking lessons with a school based in Spain, Medieval Music Besalú, and I've gone through two of their courses with the citole right now. The first course, I learned how to read manuscripts basically. The second course, I had to do more transcription. And I'm hoping eventually to take their advanced course and learn even more repertoire through there. But because of Medieval Music Basilou, I was able to learn, more about medieval modes, and also hopefully I'll teach another class at Penzic. I taught my first class on citole at Penzic this year, and it went very well. And I had about 6 or 7 students who, by the end of the class, were actually playing one of the tunes I first learned.
Wow. Well, and it's also nice at Penzic because you can just go to the merchants and buy one, which is so awesome.
Yeah, Sabine's husband Darman actually showed up in my class with a brand new citole from Master Drew, and I'm like, I know where you got that from. So apparently he's been practicing what I've taught him, but since he lives fairly close by, I'd love to get together with him and see how he's doing and if he has any questions. And but maybe I'll even get an online Zoom class going for
Oh, that
people
would
in
be
the SCA.
cool. Yeah, do it.
So you can actually take a modern day ukulele and convert it to a citola like, because the ukulele may be a descendant of the citole through Portugal.
Well, then you
So
definitely better teach the class because I have a ukulele that I plunk on and I'd love to learn how to make it sound more medieval.
And the wonderful thing about doing a sitar or a guitar is that you're not really playing chords. You don't have to do bar chords or many fingered for the left hand, um, because you're playing. This is tune G D G D. So you have a drone right there,
Right.
and everything plays within that drone.
I know
So that
that
was,
song.
yep. So yeah,
So go ahead.
that was one of the first tunes I learned how to play on my own, and that was because of Margreta. So
So, what instrument were you playing when you started? So, first of all, tell us who the Bacalli Brawlers are.
okay, the Bacalli Brawlers are a pickup dance band based in Philadelphia. We used to travel to a lot of events because there used to be a lot more dancing in the East Kingdom. But it's hard with a lot of events when there's a very long court and a feast, and we're supposed to be dancing after the feast. And by the time court's over and the feast is late starting, and by the time everything finishes up, people just wanted to go home.
Right.
So, and but we continue to play at an event in based in Boostgard called New York, based up in mundane Lake Kingston, New York, is the group that hosts it. And it's called Sign of the Dancing Fox. And it's a wonderful event in which you just start, you come when you can for the musicians. And when there are enough of us, they start holding a dance practice during the day. And then there'll be a break for like a feast or whatever, unless it's a rolling day board kind of situation. But there'll be a break, and then there's the formal, more formal dance in the evening, but it's mostly just a chance to run through everything again. So
Nice. So, what instrument did you play when you started working with them?
I started with guitar, but um there's another guitarist in the Bacalli Brawlers, and it just there weren't, because of the way medieval tunes are, and these, even the 17th century tunes, we're still talking about monophonic dance tunes. And some of the Italian dance tunes, there's no playing chords with them at all. There's no chords, or there's
Oh,
only one chord, or two chords at the most. And you could tell when, Kidden was bored, because he'd be like, okay, puts down the guitar, takes a break. But I found out if I played frame drum, I could pretty much play for everything, and they needed someone to keep time. And, you know, it really helps when, you're doing a pickup dance band situation, when there's someone who knows the repertoire and the rhythms that Arden still comes out for Dancing Fox. So when his foot taps, that's what I'm following. And people who don't know to look at Arden's foot can listen to me. You really have to pay attention for the benefit of the dancers.
so it sounds like you've been a musician since you were born. Have you always
Uh,
played instruments?
no, I actually hadn't picked up an instrument in, like, the only instrument I played previous to that was plastic recorder back in, grade school.
Fourth grade. That's when they
Yeah.
do it out in Ohio. Two kids twice in my life I've had to deal with plastic recorders.
Squeak squonk. And I liked it, but I really wanted to play guitar. And my parents had gotten me a guitar, but not any lessons at that point in time. So I learned a bit. It was only much later on. Guest appearance.
Oh my gosh. Go ahead.
It was only later on, much later on, after college, that and into my work career, I decided I have money. I'm going to take lessons now. And I went into a little local music shop, and the guy said, "You have a good right hand. You could do classical." So I did. And it was fun. I learned how to play Greensleeves. I learned how to play a little bit of Dowland and some of the other pieces. And then I got involved in a rock band for a little while, a cover band, so always playing electric guitar. That was fun.
Wow. So what keeps you in the SCA?
I think the experiences that I can have, it's not, I mean, I love getting together with people and being nerdy. I have the new joy of getting together with people and doing music with them. Um, but there's always something new to learn, I've found. And no matter what I look into, it could be food, it could be fiber arts, it could be, I haven't learned tablet weaving yet. That's still on my bucket list. And I keep having bucket list experiences that, the first year I went to Penzic, I wound up camping with Casa Bardici.
Oh, how cool.
That was an experience. Lovely group of people, really lovely group of people, but they're artists, you can tell. It was chaotic and certainly not a camp that you could really expect to get large amounts of sleep in because of the two parties they had. Because usually around 11 o'clock or so was when suddenly a horde of drummers and dancers and musicians flooded in and started setting up, and then they'd go rocking until 3 a.m.
Wow.
So yeah, it was after the Lodi Toady party that, I'm sitting there slightly hungover. The day was like decent, a little bit warm, but we had the breeze coming off the lake. The roof had been put on the hall, so that funneled the breezes through. I was just sitting there thinking, I'm going to practice some of my sit tall. And then the Contessa and her crew for the Italian dance class came running in, and suddenly I was finding chairs and seating musicians and realizing, oh, it's like I wanted to participate in the dancing, but still a little bit hungover and sleep tired. It was not the condition to be doing it in.
All
But it
right,
was
so
lovely.
go ahead.
Yeah, it was lovely talking with everyone though. So,
All right, so we've covered the sitar and the guitar, but in your bio you listed all these other instruments that you're playing. What's your new love?
oh, I think my new love is the Persian hammer dulcimer, the santur, um, and the oud. Although I haven't really picked up the oud recently, and I really should start doing that again because I really need to learn the Middle Eastern scales, the maqams. I mean, I can play tunes on it, but not extensive like improvisation, which is what the oud. You really should know the maqams to be able to improv sufficiently
Is
over
that what
these
that
songs.
instrument is known for?
Yes, very much so. In bands, they're kind of acting as the bass rhythm instrument, but they also will go into solos, especially for dancers. Takseems are what they're called. And a takseem is a rhythmless melody, is pretty much it. And the dancer is supposed to feel what you're doing, and you're supposed to feel what the dancer is doing. And you're playing to the dancer to have her like kind of act out the music in her body with her body. So,
I have in my time running the performing arts tent at Penzic, we have the Middle Eastern Dance Expo, and there's
mm-hmm.
this gentleman who I do not know the name of, who I know is known throughout the whole ME dance community. I'm
That
sorry,
must be
world
Carmine.
dance. Yes, that's it.
That's Carmine. I've known
Oh,
Carmine for years. He is
Wow.
an amazing oud player, and he plays a lot of the mundane Middle Eastern festivals. Um, he used to play Spring Caravan when there used to be a Spring Caravan. He used to play Rakasa East when there was a Rakasa East. He's now been doing the festival down in Maryland. That's in March, Art of the Belly, there on the Eastern Shore. Um, so yeah, and he's had a lot of great musicians come with him over the years. But he used to play all the Al Haflas when that used to be a thing in
Well,
Beverly.
I mean, I was just, my jaw hit the floor when I don't remember the name of the dancer. I'm just there to mind the shop, basically. And it was the best 3 hours of my life.
There are
This dancer and him, and it was just so beautiful to see them both riffing off each other was inspirational to me.
there are a number of professional dancers that show up to Penzic every year to just have they kind of like a busman's holiday for them. I know Joanna Abel from out in Pittsburgh, Kayeshi Chai from New York City. It just pretty much if there have been a lot of professional dancers that have actually grown up through Penzic and they still come back just to party.
Nice.
So
Well, I know, I mean, my obviously my Penzic job keeps me from going down the hill, but I understand that there are still some really awesome haflas that happen at Penzic.
yes, yeah, there's and a variety of music too. Just um, you have Melissa from Ishtar. Um, she brings people around for what she calls the Haflacopter, which is just a group of roving musicians and dancers that just show up and start playing. The interesting thing about the whole Middle Eastern thing is that a lot of the stuff that we are used to at Penzic is actually not period.
Yes.
So it's great to have all this music, and in a way, it's excuse me, throw that away. So it's great to have a lot of musicians and dancers and everything. It just adds to the atmosphere. And in a way, Middle Eastern music, the way that it's played today, is actually much more akin to what you'd hear in the Middle Ages, the style of the playing, believe it or not. Because it is Middle Eastern music is monophonic music.
What do you
Western
mean by
music,
monophonic music?
one line, one
Oh, right.
melody line,
Okay.
no
Yes.
chords, and everyone plays the same melody, but they may do little variations within it, like timing wise. Like instead of like da 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 da, someone may go da 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 da, just to fit within that measure. Um, and everyone will take a turn with a solo. And the Arabs are the ones who preserved the knowledge of the Greeks, and they had the knowledge of the Middle Eastern, they had the knowledge of Greek modes. And that's kind of what turned into maqams in the Middle East as well. Some of that, and maqams have developed since then, of course, just as Western music has developed since the Middle Ages. But in a way, they still have a more medieval feel to it because of the fact that their music is a lot of it's improvisational, a lot of it within a maqam or a mode, and that single line of melody. And the oud is where we get the lute from. So there's that too.
Really? I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
Well, the word itself, lute, is from lud, which means the wood, alud.
So what fascinates me is that you are so music person. You are like music, music, music. But when I look at your bio, you're so much more than just a musician. I mean, I look at all the offices that you've held in the SCA. You know, currently you're seneschal and getting ready to step up as chatelaine. What is that draws you to the positions that you've held?
Well, it's kind of just the need. If we want the local group to survive, people have to step up and volunteer. And I was serving as deputy seneschal when our seneschal at the time was like, well, I'm moving back up to Boston to Bergenthal. So I need some, can you do it? I'm like, okay. She's like, I'm not leaving quite yet. And we know we have a baronial polling to do for the new baron and baroness. So I'll help you through that. And, but I will be out the end of that this year, so you'll have to take over officially as seneschal. So I did. And it's actually a very kind of chill position because we're a very chill barony.
Nice.
We're not involved with a lot of picky political stuff. Although we're starting to do things like maybe we're looking at some zip codes that may need to be reclaimed from when the barony was founded as a shire. Some zip codes, the borders were not quite well established. And we are modern day Bucks County, Pennsylvania. So if there's a big zip code within Bucks County, it really should belong to us and not to groups adjacent.
So what's the process of reclaiming those zip codes? What do you have to do?
The first step is emailing the postal legatus with just for the East Kingdom with a list of zip codes saying where they are, and we're inquiring about claiming those within our borders. So, and then hopefully someone from the postal legatus or the kingdom, at the direction of the East Kingdom Seneschal will get back to me sometime and get back to their excellencies, really. And because they're the ones who wanted this done. It's like I am officially the, gets things done for their excellencies thing within kingdom. I am their representative, so that's what I do. Um, Stepping up as chatelaine is because the person who wants to become the next seneschal, when you're a seneschal, you can't really hold any other offices.
Right.
So he has to give up. He's currently knight marshal and chatelaine. So he has to give up both of those offices. And he already has we have someone for knight marshal. And I'm like, I'll do chatelaine for you and I will be your deputy. So you don't have to go through this alone. And technically, I could step up again after 2 years. So we'll see what happens then. Hopefully, someone else will be within our group at that time who will have learned and want to do the administrative stuff.
Yeah, I
Because
found people in the SCA, sometimes you need to just go up to them and say, "Hey, do you have any interest in this position?" Because so many of us are introverted to the point where we don't like to put ourselves forward for things.
and even if they serve as an officer, they may look at this position as seneschal, and it does come with some heavy responsibilities. Like I'm one of the signatories to the bank for the bank account, and as such, I cannot run an event. I cannot handle money. I
Oh,
can sign off on checks and I could do small things like when I get the insurance for an event, I have to spend my own money to do it, so I'll get reimbursed. But I cannot um, actually be a steward of an event at this point in time.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's all about conflict of interest, and I, probably I think there may have been a seneschal or two in the way distant past who abused the powers of the purse to their benefit. So they're very strict in the SCA at the corporate level, and each kingdom that as you serve as a seneschal, you shall not serve any longer than 4 years. It's supposed to be only 2 years, but you can do two consecutive terms. Then you must step down
Hmm.
unless there is such an emergency like COVID, in which you can't really hold events
Right.
anyway. Um, but you can't stay any longer than 4 years. And the same thing with the exchequer, which is
Right.
another position that's hard to fill.
Oh yeah, we have that problem out here in the mid realm. So if somebody watching this wants to get information from you on starting with a musical instrument, how do they do that?
They can reach out to me at 147-575 at members.eastkingdom.org, and I will answer all their questions, send my class paper on the sital, um, tell them where they could get an instrument, how to convert a ukulele for cheap. I mean, I touched upon before how there's no agreed upon tuning, but generally, if you do the medieval music, Besalou had me do the tuning of G, D, G, C. I did D, I raised it up to D just to get another note out of a neck because it's so short. And that enables me to play tunes like Amorosa, Amoroso, Graca. Amoroso is the dance tune I'm thinking of where you have to like go up all the way on the neck. And if it's tuned down to a C, I can't get that extra. I can't get that high. So just one more note. Um,
There is an SCA musicians group on Facebook
there
that
is an
I,
SCA musicians group on Facebook who have a lot of knowledgeable people about various instruments. So if it's like a string instrument, um, if it's sitar or guitar, um, or lute, I'll probably have some insight. There are others who will have insight. I don't play the VL, I don't play any of the bowed instruments, so there are others who can answer questions about that. I don't play wind instruments. There are others who can answer questions about that. But I can definitely hook you up with people. So,
yay. So how did you get involved with Sabine and Margrethe?
very simple. Sabine was head deputy cat herder of the Bacalli Brawlers at the time that I joined. So she's so nice. She's so unfailingly nice that people who needed to coordinate for an event would often say, "Hey, Sabine, can you pick up any musicians?" And she would be the one to herd the cats together. When Margreta moved here from, I think she was in Ethelmark then when she moved here, and she also became the Bacalli Brawlers. Arden kind of stepped away for various life things. I think he was getting a little bit burned out, but he'll still come to an event just so he can play dance music. He still loves that. But Sabine had Margreta be her deputy cat herder, and Margreta became Sabine's apprentice, and then she became a Laurel. And so now Margreta has as apprentices me, and Philippe de Vigeron, who is an excellent singer. He's a trained singer. Um, he started playing hammer dulcimer, um, like Western hammer dulcimer. So I'm hoping to see him at Bacal Yule, which is an event in December in the Barony of Bacal in Philadelphia, which is a big event at the German Society of America, which is also the Bacali Brewers Championship. So the bar downstairs, we have like a proper German bar that the German Society has, and everyone brings whatever they brewed during the year, their beers, their meads, their cordials, their melomels, and they need to clear stuff out of their house. We get to drink it. is essentially how it goes.
Now I want to come out even more than I already did, just to, I mean, I don't drink, but I'd still take a tipple or two. All right, so wait, okay, so we're almost done, and we haven't even talked about everything in your bio.
Oh God.
So, you have, so you say your other interests are medieval Sicily,
Hmm.
particularly food. So tell me about this paper that you
Okay.
wrote about food in medieval Sicily.
So I am mundanely like one quarter Sicilian. My father's side of the family is the Italian side. My grandfather came from Calabria. My grandmother came from Sicily. My grandmother actually came from Corleone, which makes a lot of jokes. And I was starting to research that side of the family, and I thought Corleone, Lionheart. I thought that's what it meant. No, not at all. It actually came from an Arabic word, Corleone, I think it is. And when I realized that, I'm like, oh no, oh my, there's like a whole culture here. No wonder why when I was in Florence as a teenager and I said my grandmother was Sicilian, that the Florentine guy cocked his head at me and said, bionda, because I was very blonde then and blonde. And I'm like, you don't look, you, Lea Tedesca, he asked me, are you German? I'm like, I don't know. Turned out that yes, maybe I am a little bit Lombard because that's where my grandmother's family apparently came from ancestrally. We had a when um, it was Frederick the Second, who was the grandson of Roger the Second. His daughter became Queen of Sicily after her husband came down from Germany, and essentially he decided he was going, the Holy Roman Emperor Frederick the First Hohenstaufen, and decided he was going to take over the island and the south of Italy. And he brought Constance with him, and Frederick was born in Frederick II was born in southern Italy. So apparently, after the last William II died, there was an illegitimate son of uh, Roger II who tried to claim the throne. And that's when Frederick the First came down and said, "Nope, you're not getting it," and battled him, and he became king of Sicily. Um, so after when Frederick was going into his majority, the Arabs on the island, there were still Arabs. The Arabs had invaded in the, let's see, they had about AD 700 or so, AD 800. They came to the island, and they had about 250 years there until the enterprising Normans said, "That looks cool. We're going to take that." So that's when the Altavilla or the Hauteville brothers came down. Robert Guiscard the Fox and his brother Roger, um, because as younger boys in um, Norm- Normandy, they didn't have any access to land. Their family just didn't have anything. So they came down with all the other Norman mercenaries and married into Lombard families, fought the Greeks, fought the Arabs, and Roger and Robert fought the Arabs in Sicily and conquered the island. But not all the Arabs left. You still had the farmers and the peasants and merchants, and a lot of them stayed. So you'll have Sicilians with family names that are Arab or Greek, because the Greeks were there as well. They'd been there even earlier when the Arabs invaded. The Byzantine Greeks actually held the island before then. So there's a whole cultural melting pot that went on in Sicily. And when I started researching, certain foods certainly had Roman influence, certain foods definitely had Arabic influence. And they're very different than cuisine in northern Italy. So I started thinking, what actually was eaten in the court of Roger the First? What was the cuisine? And the more and more research I did, the more I realized, hey, I should put all my stuff down into a paper, for teaching a class. And then I threw it up on academia.edu. And then it got picked up by medievalist.net. And I hadn't realized what had happened, just suddenly seeing my academia readership go like skyrocket. And I was like, oh, so that's it. And since that paper, I've actually revised and expanded upon that paper a little bit. So now I have two medieval food papers on academia.edu: medieval food, medieval Sicily, and food in medieval Sicily revised, in which I added a few more recipes and worked out some stuff there.
Has
And
anyone cooked a feast based off of your research?
I think a few people have. I've seen
Wow.
people pick it up, and one person did her own version of a dish called pasticcio al ibn Itma, which was the Emir of Catania's chicken dish. It's what I call it, or what it's most often called in English. The Emir of Catania apparently had a real liking for this dish, but this dish actually has uh, Middle Eastern antecedents. And um, there's the I was reading Charles Perry's Scents and Flavors, which is a Syrian cookbook from the 14th century, and there is a dish called Egyptian, but essentially it's a hollowed out bread loaf with ground up chicken and nuts and bread, and it has rose water in it and other things. The Amira Catania's chicken dish, the modern day, is ground up chicken, bread, capers, which are, intensely Sicilian thing. There's a whole island off the coast that grows some of the best capers in the world. Um, Lemon juice, lemons all over Sicily. The Arabs brought them there. Almonds, pistachios, that those are also intensely Sicilian and also from the Arabs. And the bread is the semolina bread rather than a soft wheat. And again, semolina is something that grows well in Sicily as in the Mediterranean, and the Arabs are the ones who invented semolina dried pasta. There are other noodles from elsewhere, like China has its own noodles. Everyone has their own noodles. Essentially, if you grew a wheat, you created a noodle. And in this case, the Arabs found out that the hardness of the semolina, uh, it dried well and it created a marching food for their armies. This is something they could take along and, boil in. And it became part of their cuisine.
That's really cool. I can't believe this, but we're actually out of time.
Wow.
Um, so
Time flies.
last question is what can the SCA do better?
I think they can really do a better job of reaching out to younger people who have so many more options for their leisure time. And, doing more stuff like demos at gaming events, demos at Ren fairs. Ren fairs are hugely popular right now. And people want to, they may come into it by wanting to fight, do fencing, and then they'll find out that there are other things that they like doing, but they can't find out about it if we're not there front and center. And if there's a way to, supplement new members' membership fees, especially for the younger folks, because it can be expensive.
Mhm.
So I think that's what the SCA can do better. And I think the SCA can also do better Maybe with their board, we need more egalitarian democratic representation, so to speak. And things served well when the SCA was a lot smaller, but we're a worldwide organization now and there's new generations. So maybe time to revamp stuff there so people feel like they have more of a voice.
I agree. All right. This is Simply SCAdian, no title required. I'm Zoph, hanging out with my new best friend, Adelisa Saler. Yes? No.
Salernitana. Say it.
Salernitana. There we
Yes.
go. Okay. Um, and Lucas will be back with us in 2 weeks. I'll be here in 2 weeks. We have some awesome new guests lined up from the mid-realm, but do not forget, we're always looking for guests. So if you have recommendations, please let us know. We have a Facebook page, which is how you're watching this show, hopefully. So drop us a line, let us know who you think should be our next guest on Simply SCAdian. No title required. Good night.